Welcome to a special episode of the Canadian Gender Wars Report. I'm recording Tuesday following the Easter weekend with a special guest, Emily Duggan. Emily's been on the show before. We've had some conversations about what's going on in her world in southeastern British Columbia in the gender wars. And recently there's been some developments there. And she has stepped up to run for school trustee. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Emily, but you ran previously. Is that right?
That's right. This is my second kick at the can.
Well, good for you. We've been following some of your engagements with the schools there and with various sort of activities that have garnered some public attention over the last 6 months, year or so. And I'm glad that you've stepped up. Can you? For viewers, we're going to have viewers across the country on this, and I've noted online in I don't know if it was Rebel News or maybe it was True North or another publication that there's some people pointing to what's going on with this by-election. A trustee has stepped down. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. So this is a by-election. So in British Columbia, school board trustee elections are held every 4 years. So the last one was in 2022. So the next one will be in 2026. This is a by-election to fill the only one seat of the member who has stepped down.
Okay. And how many school trustees are there in your, now do you call it a riding? Do you call it a district? What's the right language for British Columbia?
In British Columbia, we call them school districts. And I'm running in school district 20, Kootenays, Columbia. And there are 9 school board trustees on the board in that district.
Okay. And roughly how many schools in the district?
Oh, gosh. I don't know the answer to that question. I should probably find that out. That's a good question. It's a pretty good sized district. It covers Castlegar, Roslyn, Trail, Fruitvale, and then all the little surrounding communities. So there's quite a few schools. Okay.
Now, are you, let's say, responsible for a specific zone or area? Like,
yeah. So the seat that I'm running for is the City of Castlegar position. So that includes the City of Castlegar, Blueberry, Raspberry, Robson, Deer Park, Renata, Syringa, and up the Polson Highway.
Okay. And so let's figure out first what happened to the last trustee. Was this just a normal course of events and they left their position, or did something happen that?
That has not been publicized. I believe that he has just respectfully stepped down from the position. I'm not sure if it's for personal reasons or for professional reasons. I have my ideas, but those are just my ideas.
Mm-hmm. And what are the politics like in the board there? We hear, and we cover a lot of school board drama across the country. A lot in Ontario, obviously, but there's stuff that's going on everywhere. What are some of the issues local to you that they might be kind of mundane, or they might be a little spicy? What's going on in the school district at large?
So School District 20 is the school district that got some fame last school year when they had a kindergarten grade 1 teacher show drag queen story time to her kindergarten grade 1 class without parental consent or knowledge. She then took a picture of the class, the students watching it. It was on a pull-down screen. It wasn't a live show. It was on the projector, but she took a picture of the kids watching it and posted it on her Instagram account with the hashtag sorry not sorry. So that gained a little bit of fame for School District 20 last year, probably not for very good reasons, I would say. And since that has happened, it has really sparked the conversation around parental inclusion, open and honest communication between staff and families, what is being taught in the classroom, what people are allowed to teach, what teachers are allowed to teach in the classroom, the parameters around that. And so that's actually one of my main platform topics is parental inclusion. I firmly believe that anything in our school, in our public education system, can be accomplished with the proper parental and guardian inclusion. Open, honest communication is key. So that's a big issue for School District 20. And then along with almost every other district in British Columbia, the issue of getting our education back to the basics. So right now, our public education system, and I mean, I think this is probably could be true right across the country, but right now our public education system is producing graduates, sending graduates out into our workforce who struggle to do basic math. They struggle to spell, read. They can't even name what continent they live on. But they can list off 75 different genders. So the focus on our public education system, it's gotten lost along the way somewhere. So that's an issue in our district. And then, of course, similar to other districts, we've got budget issues. Like, where is the money going? Are we using it as wisely as we could be? Where can we make cuts? How come we don't have enough EAs? Is that related to budgets or is that related to lack of incentives? Do we have proper sporting supplies? Do we have proper academic supplies? Do our non-visibly, do our students who have non-visible disabilities have the supports that they need to be successful in their academics at school? And so that all trickles down to what's going on with our budgets. And then, as I already mentioned, another issue is EAs. Where are they? How do we get more? What can we do to make sure that our students have the supports that they need to succeed?
Terrific. That's a huge, I mean, you're covering a lot of issues that are common concerns of parents across the country. We're seeing this not just in BC, not just in Ontario, but widely. It seems like we're a little bit behind the States in catching on to what's been going on in schools and some of the deterioration that we're experiencing. We're going to cover three things in our conversation tonight. We talked about this just before we went live into recording. Your platform and how your campaign is going, and you're receiving some pushback. That's a little bit, a little bit of pushback. And I want to invite you to share a little bit about yourself. People will vote for those that they know, like, and trust. And you're from the region. Tell us a bit about yourself and what your background is and what brought you to this issue.
So I'm a stay-at-home parent of two marvelous girls. I'm also a farm wife. We live in rural BC in the West Kootenays. We've got just under 5 acres. We've got a pony, chickens, dogs, beautiful garden. It's lovely here. We're really living the dream. We're from the Okanagan, my partner and I, but our kids were born here. They're Kootenay kids. And we just love the area. It's a beautiful, full of mountains. We're right out in the middle of nature. You couldn't ask for more, really. We moved here because my partner was able to find work here, and it's undeniably beautiful here. So it was a no-brainer to live here. I came upon this mission of mine with the education system when my oldest entered school 3 years ago. So before that, I really wasn't engaged in the education system. It wasn't on my map yet, but once it landed there, I started paying attention. It was really important to me when my daughter entered school that I was an engaged parent and that I knew what was going on in her world when she was at school. And in engaging myself with her education, I became aware of some really serious issues. Now, my child is in a different district than where I'm running for trustee right now. But as I said before, a lot of the issues are across the board. And so one of the main issues that I first was made aware of is the SOGI 123 resource guide that we have in British Columbia. For those who don't know, SOGI 123 stands for Sexual Orientation, Gender Identity. It is not a curriculum. It is a resource guide, and it promotes the idea that a child could be born in the wrong body, that gender is fluid, and it introduces young children to adult sexuality before they are ready. It was presented in 2016 to our education system as an anti-bullying program, and it really sounded like a great program when they first introduced it. However, over the years, it really evolved into something that has become more detrimental to our communities than helpful. So I always say that SOGI 123 hasn't stopped bullying; it's just changed the face of the bully. So it promotes keeping secrets from parents and guardians. It promotes the idea that parents are not safe. It really places a wedge in between children and their parents. And as our children grow in life, I mean, all parents know this, they get to a stage in life where there's just a natural wedge. They don't need any help with that. As we grow up and we learn who we are and we go through different stages of life, most of us always come back to our parents. Some of us with our tails tucked. I know I did. Oh, sorry, you were right. And SOGI 123, it really gets that wedge started sooner and lasting longer, and it can create irreversible damages to a person's life. It encourages medical interventions, and I firmly believe as a parent that we shouldn't be medically intervening with our minors unless it's seriously needed. And this idea that if we do not medically intervene with the youth who are having identity issues, that it's actually life-saving, that's just false. That's not the truth. And over time, we have seen that to be debunked in the fact that when our youth transition in the next 7 to 10 years, the transition regret starts to set in. And a lot of these interventions are irreversible. So SOGI 123 plays a really big role in that. And as a parent, that's an issue for me. So that's when I really started to get more engaged with the education system. I started speaking out about it. I created a group called Moms Against the Norm. For the past 2 years, I've been advocating for parents and families across British Columbia and working with different groups across the country, Gays Against Grooming Canada, the D-Trans Alliance, and just trying to share awareness and information to be able to give parents what they need to make the choices that are best for their families. So that really has what got me started. And then from there, people have approached me with other issues, such as like, hey, my kid graduated last year and doesn't know how to count back change, which is like, what do you mean? So that's an issue that is pretty big and important. I mean, we're putting these kids through 13 years of education. They're coming out uneducated. It makes you wonder what's going on in the school system. So,
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, like, just sort of like putting a little bit of effort and time into this over the last couple of years.
Just a little
dabbling, I would say. Tell me,
I'm
what's
an all or nothing kind of gal.
You've obviously formulated a platform at this point. How long between the time you found out that there was going to be a seat vacant and you deciding to run? Like, was that? Did you take a little bit of time, or did you kind of know right away that you wanted to jump in?
So in British Columbia, to run in a school board trustee election, you need to be nominated by a community member. For School District 20, they require 2 nominators. And the rules they're kind of funny. And I would love to go for coffee with the guy that made the rules and just ask him, what were you thinking when you made these? So the rules are that the nominators must live in the electoral area. So for this election, the seat that I'm in, it's the same places I listed before. So I had 2 people step forward in that area to nominate me. And the interesting part is the person running for election can live anywhere in BC. They don't necessarily have to live in the district or in the voting area. So I was nominated by 2 Castlegar city residents, and it was just the obvious next step for me to accept the nomination. I had assisted parents and families in that district over the last 2 years. When the kindergarten teacher showed drag queen story time to her class, I assisted some of the families of that class. I have already worked with the school district administration through that situation. I'm familiar with them. They're familiar with me. And so when I was nominated, as I said, it was the obvious next step.
Great. So how are you formulating your campaign? Are you focusing in on 1 or 2 issues? Do you have a slogan developed? Like, how far along are you in the process? What are you telling people? What are people telling you that their concerns are?
So my slogan is, I care about our future, because I do. I care about our future. And my platform started out initially really just for parental inclusion and engagement in the education system and keeping open and honest dialogue between school and families. And then my second point was getting education back to the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic. There is really no good reason why students should be graduating from 13 years of public education system and not having these skills. And then after engaging with the public, people started coming to me with, what about the budget? What are you going to do for students who have autism, who don't have the supports that they need? What are you going to do for students with disabilities? How are they going to access certain aspects of the education system? And so I've slowly been working on adding those to my platform. I've been looking over the budget and trying to understand it, which is quite the task. So I've been putting my thinking cap on and having conversations with people in the industry, other trustees across the province, asking questions to people with lots more experience than I do. I may not have the experience, but I absolutely am capable of learning. And that's what I've been focusing on, to try to understand, okay, this is what the budget is. The majority of the budget goes towards salaries. How do the salaries work? What can we do? Where can we cut corners? If we have students with learning disabilities and they would succeed better if they could have access to iPads, how can we get those iPads to those kids? If we have kids with access disabilities, it's 2024. How come this is still a conversation? Why don't we have these problems fixed yet? Let's bring everybody up to the same speed here and get on the same page. We shouldn't be having these kind of access problems in 2024. And if we are, we need to fix that. I actually had a mother approach me and let me know that at her child's elementary school, they're still not letting parents in. And that to me, what do you mean they're not letting parents in the building? And she told me, well, the school is at capacity with the students. And so if they let anybody else in, they'll be breaking the fire code. So they didn't have a Christmas concert. They didn't do any celebration like that because once the families come in, they're over capacity. They're breaking the fire code. And as she's saying this to me, I have solved the problem. As she's mid-sentence, I said, this is a no-brainer. What's going on here? We've got all these professionals at the wheel here, and nobody can figure out that it's a simple fix. If the school goes from grade 1 to grade 6 and you want to have a Christmas concert, but you've got a capacity issue, well, why don't you just do grade 1 and 2 on Monday, grade 3 and 4 on Tuesday? I mean, it's not rocket science here.
This explains some of the bad outcomes in the education system.
I mean, and she was very upset. She said, we've got some grandparents in the district who would just love to come and see their grandkids perform. And I had to say, that is an issue, and that's an important issue. Family members want to come and see their kids perform and succeed, and they want to cheer them on. But for me, the bigger issue is when you take away an experience like a Christmas, something as simple as a Christmas concert, getting up and singing Frosty the Snowman. It's so much more than that for these students, especially at the elementary school age. Mm-hmm. What you're actually taking away from them is an opportunity to practice public speaking, is an opportunity to feel pride in an accomplishment, is an opportunity to practice a craft, perform it, and succeed at it. So it goes so much further than just having family come and cheer and have a good fun night. It's taking skills and practice away from these kids. And to me, when the fix is something so simple, what's really going on? So that's something that I'd like to really take a look at and have a conversation with the rest of the board on. When I get elected and I finally get a seat at the table and I can work from the inside. That's something that is on the top of the list. Like there are easier solutions here. Everything doesn't have to be done the hard way. So
when is the election?
So there's actually 3 voting days, which I was surprised on. April 10th is the first, April 17th.
That's coming up fast.
That's right. And then April 20th. And so far, the district hasn't arranged anything for the candidates. There's 4 of us, and there hasn't been any sort of public engagement arranged by the district. So I've really stepped up to the plate, and I've taken the bull by the horns, so to speak, and I've arranged 2 public engagements. Both times, I've invited my fellow candidates. The first time, none of them showed up. So I carried on as planned, and it was a great event. They really missed out. I did an hour and a half of public engagement, answering questions from the crowd. It was great. I think that the people who attended enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I think that the crowd learned a lot. The next event that I've planned is for this Friday as a meet and greet. Again, I invited the candidates. None of them have responded to me. And so again, I will go forward with the event, hoping that they show up at the last minute. There's enough space for them. And we can just do a meet and greet with the public. I think that today in 2024, public engagement is really important. The voters want to know who we are as people. They want to be able to look in our eyes. They want to be able to see our body language when we answer questions. And I keep saying, like, come and meet me. Ask me your questions. Put me on the spot. See how I respond. Let's do this. I'm excited to meet you. I'm excited to spend a bit of time with you and to show you what I have to offer the community. I think I have a lot to offer.
Terrific. You mentioned the other people running. A couple of weeks ago, I was following, and I knew that there was one person running, and then I saw that there was 4 people on your latest sort of playbill, your invitation to Friday night. Tell me about the other candidates that have stepped up to the plate on this.
Yeah, so it's myself. I guess you could describe me as a parental rights advocate, and then another woman, Jennifer Burton. Her and her husband are local business owners. They have, I believe, 3 children in the district. And from what I know of Jennifer Burton, she's a kind woman, and she has advocated for her kids' education for the past 3 years, I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. That could be longer. But she's been engaged with the district. She ran in the by-election in 2020. Like me, she lost that election. So this is her second kick at the can too, I believe, which, I mean, kudos to her. It takes a lot to fail and get up and try again. So yeah, I'm excited to run with her. And then another woman, Lindsay Kenny. I don't know very much about Lindsay. She's been pretty quiet so far on this election trail that we're on. We were given a survey and about LGBT questions regarding that community, and Lindsay was the only candidate who did not participate in that. So I'm not sure what her stance on issues are. And then the fourth candidate is Berkeley Volks. And Berkeley Volks is a transgender man who also performs as a drag king by the name Ryder Good. So Berkeley is the big representative for the LGBT community. And yeah, has a lot of support from the left side of the community and not so much from the right side.
We could assume the SOGI defender there. And just for clarification for viewers, because the language is so confusing. And we live in this world, so we're really familiar with it. A transgender man is a biological female, someone born a woman who has undergone some changes in their dress and pronouns and name. And in this case, I see a beard in the picture, so we assume some hormones, and has transitioned to live in the facsimile of manhood.
That's right.
Now, you've been getting some pushback. Speaking of the activists and the left, and you're running in a by-election, so there's really not a lot of other election stuff going on. There's some focus here, and sometimes the activists get themselves inspired by a project. What's going on with the pushback you're getting?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of history between Berkeley and myself. Berkeley, so last year, there was a drag queen story time at our public library that I ended up getting canceled, and Berkeley was the drag performer at that event.
Okay.
So when I announced my candidacy a few days later, Berkeley announced their candidacy, and it was like an explosion through the community. We're back in competition with each other, and both sides have a lot to say about it. The pushback that I have been getting has been from the SOGI supporters, gender ideology supporters, lots of far left supporters, and they've gone as far as making an entire website just for me. And, at first I'm still blown away, but I must say it's quite the compliment to be so important that somebody or a group of people would dedicate so much time to make a website just about little old me. It's called the Anti-Gender Watch, and I mean, you can scroll for quite a while before you get done with what they've said about me.
What's the worst thing? I mean, some viewers know, our loyal our viewers know that I ran for school trustee in Ontario around the same time that you ran out in BC, and we got all kinds of names. So what's I mean, aside from the usual, what's the worst thing that you're getting this time around?
Yeah, I mean, it's the usual for anybody who speaks out against a left ideology. I'm a hateful, harmful, hurtful, transphobic, homophobic, biphobic bigot. According to these folks, I would not describe myself that way. And I'd like to point out to anybody who's watching that these terms, we have these terms in our society to describe horrific acts and crimes committed from one human being against another. And there was a time in our history where these words held weight and they really meant something. Now these words are tossed around with such little consideration. They have lost almost all of their meaning. To call a person like myself these names it just goes to show how little meaning they hold now. And in my opinion, misusing these terms is simply re-victimizing the real victims of these real crimes again and again. I don't know if you remember Matthew Shepard, but I remember Matthew Shepard, and I remember when he was killed and he was left tied to a fence post. because he was gay. And every time I am called these names and they're misused, I think of Matthew Shepard. And I think how awful it is to take a word that describes what was done to him and put it on a person like me. I would never treat another human being like that. Yeah, I would never do that to another human being. In fact, I would be one of the first to step up and get involved to protect another human being, whether I agree with their lifestyle or not. Every human being on this planet deserves the same baseline, basic respect. You don't have to like someone. You don't have to agree with them. But when someone's walking in through a door behind you, it's just common courtesy that you hold that door open for them. And that's how I raise my kids. And that's how people that know me to be. And a lot of the people that are saying these things about me, they have never even met me. And they're running around with the slogan, no space for hate, but they are slinging it left, right, and center. So, I mean, as I said, the website that was created about me, I consider it a compliment that they've taken that much time to focus on me. But at the same time, I really would advise those people to remember what those words they're calling me stand for, and to make sure that moving forward, they practice using them with more care and respect to the real victims that have suffered because of those words.
Mm-hmm. How is the community responding? Obviously, you've had a couple, you had your first sort of public engagement. You got another one coming up this weekend. Are you door knocking? Are you reaching out and talking to people? What's the general feeling that you're getting from people as you're talking to them?
I have not gone door knocking yet. That is something that my team and I have talked about. And we do have plans to look into that and see if that's something that we're interested in doing. For the most part, so the first event that I held on March 19th, I got a great turnout and I got a great response from the people who showed up. I mean, I answered questions from them for an hour and 15 minutes, I believe, and I got a standing ovation at the end. It was a beautiful feeling. It was the true meaning of support and acceptance. For the most part, I have a lot of silent support simply because anybody who speaks up in support of me is labeled these terms, these negative terms, and people don't want to be called those. So, so I have a lot of silent support because nobody likes to be bullied. For the most part, I'm being told by community members that they don't want a drag queen on their school, or a drag king, pardon me, on their school board trustee, especially a drag king who goes by the name of Ryder Good. They don't want somebody like that making decisions for their minors. It just seems inappropriate and a little bit of a conflict of interest when you're doing burlesque type adult entertainment and then you want to transition into the children's world. Some other community feedback from the pushback sort of side. My neighbor has just ordered 200 trans pride flags and plans on hanging them on the fence that we share, and is going to be organizing a work party to get those flags up to really show me where she stands, I guess. So, I mean, if there's one thing I'm good at, it is getting other people to spend money on things they don't need. So, yeah, she posted that on Facebook, and she's spent close to $200 on these flags, too. I'm not sure what she thinks is going to spark inside of me, but
yeah,
go for it, man.
Well, while we're on the topic of money, how does fundraising work in BC? What are the rules around that? Is there a cutoff for donating to your campaign? How can people do that if they want to make a donation to support your efforts?
So there is lots of rules around campaign funding. We can collect donations from any resident in British Columbia. not outside of British Columbia. They can't donate from one person more than $1,000. I've cut the cap at $1,000. I would be, honestly, I would be horrified if somebody sent me more than $1,000. Sorry. But it's just slightly over $1,000 according to BC elections, but I've cut the cap at 1,000. And then there is no limit as to how many donations we can accept. However, there is a limit on how much money we can spend, which again,
Okay.
I'd like to talk to the person that made these rules, because if I collect so many dollars and I am only allowed to spend so many dollars, what am I supposed to do with the excess? But we can't spend more than just over $5,000, and we have to keep all of our receipts, all of that jazz. Our donators need to send, we need to have their full name, full residential address, including postal code, and donations for me from British Columbia residents only can be sent to Emily for SD20trustee@gmail.com. I'm collecting donations that way. And again, you'll have to include your full residential address, including postal code. And I'd be oh so grateful. We're trying to put every penny that is donated to us to the best use that we possibly can. We're focusing a lot, mainly on advertising. That's what we've spent all our money on so far. I just got a billboard put up on the highway, which is
wonderful.
Yeah, it's cool. I wonder what I'm going to do with it after this election. But it's pretty cool. Every time I drive past with my kids, Mom, look, there's your big head. And then we've put a couple ads in the local newspaper, which is pretty exciting. We've also ordered some lawn signs. We're going to be doing a mail out through Canada Post. And yeah, we've really just been focusing on advertising and then the rental space for the two events that the one that's coming up and the one I've already held. And we will continue to spend money on public engagement venues, because after COVID and having all of our human connection cut off from us, I really feel like that's a big problem in our communities across the world, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, is we've really lost the ability to connect with our fellow community members, our fellow human beings. And so I'm really working hard to bring that back. I want to stand in a room with my community members, and I want to look them in the eye when I'm talking. This business of communicating over social media, it really brings out the worst in us. It does not bring out the best in us. People do not act the same as they would in person as they do online. And I'm really trying to encourage people to get away from that. I've said, like in my first public engagement, I said to people, stay off the internet. Like, don't argue with people on the internet. Don't argue with them about me. We're not going to change these people's minds. They've already made it up. They've already decided not to like me, even though they've never met me. And that's okay. Go out and talk to your neighbor in person when you can look them in the eyes and see their body language. And let's bring back that human connection in person. That's so important to me. So that's what we've been spending the money on, is advertising and public engagement venues.
Wonderful. Well, you've taken on a big project once again. So what happens? We're looking back on our conversation and we're reflecting on your campaign, and it's the day after, and you have won. What's the next step?
That's when the real work starts. That's when I've got to make real every promise I've made. I've got to put my nose to the grindstone and really get to work. Yeah. I got to really understand how budgets work and where I can suggest. I keep trying to tell people that when I'm elected, I will just be one vote in a sea of 9. And so I have to use that vote to the best of my ability. And I can't just walk in there, hey guys, we're doing this now. That's not how it works. That's not how it's going to work. But I can walk in there with the right attitude, with a leadership attitude, and with the mindset that I'm going to bring good ideas to the table that are going to benefit my community. So
now, setting aside the idea of winning or losing, how will you know that your campaign has been a success?
When we get over 1,000 voters showing up to the poll. My main goal, aside from winning this election, is making this the biggest voter turnout that BC has ever seen for a trustee election.
Wow.
My entire purpose in running in this campaign, aside from winning again, is engaging the public in these issues. For the most part, we have become, and all of us, myself included, up until the point when I did get engaged, but for the most part, as a society, we have become complacent with our public education, and we have really felt that we could trust the education system to take care of and do what is best for our children. And once becoming engaged, I have come to accept the realization that that is not true. And we need to bring public engagement back to public education. So, the fact that I have so many people supporting me and so many people pushing back is great. That means that people are talking. That means that conversations are being started. And I hope that that means that we will get the biggest voter turnout that British Columbia has ever seen for a trustee election.
That's a great big goal. And that was my whole purpose for running a couple of years ago, and I know a lot of other trustees, and we cross over in some different parents' rights groups and group chats and things like that, and there's a fair number of us, and that was the big reflection afterwards for us was acknowledging our successes in raising the public conversation, moving the needle forward, getting people engaged. I said after in my, whatever it was of a concession speech, that this wasn't the end. Of course, this was just the beginning. We were just getting started. And good for you for stepping up, to run for school trustee. It might be one of the most underappreciated and most important roles in our democratic society as we're helping to shape and mold and inspire the next generation in our democracy. So, Emily, thank you very much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for stepping up. Again, donor information, what's the email?
Emily for SD20trustee@gmail.com. And if I could just leave one final thought with all of our viewers, if that's all right with you, Shannon, I want to tell everybody across the country that each and every one of you, if you're over 18 and an eligible voter, you need to get up and vote for your school board trustee. Even if you're not a parent, and even if you are a parent, but your kids are no longer in school. And I'll tell you why. When our education system is done with these kids, they enter into our workforce. They might be your coworker. One day, they might be your employer. And we want to make sure that they have the basic skills to be able to succeed. When they succeed, the community succeeds. And so it's important that we all have a say in how the public education is going to be run for that reason.
Obviously, you've spent an awful lot of time thinking about this, and I really appreciate you sharing from the heart today. Emily, best of luck in your campaign. Voting days again are coming up on the 10th is the first one.
Yeah, and then the 17th, and then the 20th.
On the 20th. This is, once again, we're talking about southeastern British Columbia and the beautiful mountainous region of the Kootenays. Emily Duggan has been my guest today. Thank you so much, Emily, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.